it's not that big a deal, then I'm like, he's like,
yeah, I've had to pee like for 7 or 8 days, so yeah, just constantly. I understand. I want to talk about, just before we delve a little bit more into the characters on the show, you were talking about the fact that you've been thinking about this show, this world, for 10 years. Was there a moment where the world came to you? Because it's a pretty innovative mashup, and it's very rooted in its, in its literary roots. I mean, it's very grounded. I think a lot of times people feel that horror can be kind of very outre and broad, but this is just, it's so granular, it's so thoughtful. So what was the moment you thought, I'm going to crystallize all of these myths into one?
It came from like all the television shows from William Wordsworth.
Oh yes.
Reading a lot of romantic poetry about 10 years ago. At a period in my life, I was frankly depressed, and I found solace in reading those poets, and it led me eventually back to Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, which I hadn't read in years. And I read it, and I wept. I was so moved by that story of those two monstrous creations that are partly angel and partly devil so equally, and I thought, well, this is a fascinating world. And, really in a way, it has to do with how I grew up as a gay man before it was perhaps as socially acceptable as it is now. And I knew what it was to feel alienated from my family and my community, and I realized the very thing that made me different also made me who I am. And I decided to write about that. And that's where Penny Dreadful came from. And originally I thought, well, maybe I'll just do Frankenstein. But I decided I wanted a fictional character. And so I created Vanessa Ives. I wanted a female protagonist who lives in that world at a time when women were literally and figuratively corseted. And I thought that was interesting for characters who are grappling with demons that want to get out, but there's a danger to it. So I spent years, literally years, thinking about it. And the real inspiration for sort of bringing these characters together was the second generation Universal horror films, which I'm so happy I'm with an audience who knows what that means. When all of a sudden the characters and the origin myths started mixing. And you had the Transylvanian Count and the British Doctor, and you had all this monster sort of coming together and forming a new cosmology. And that's when I said, rather ambitiously, that's what I want to do. And that's where it came from. So